Do you spend time working out what your finger patterns are, which fingers you're going to use and where? Or do you sit at the piano and just play and hope for the best? I really hope it's the first one, because if you are someone who uses the second potluck method, you will come unstuck and you will find it really hard to get your fingers to remember where they're supposed to go, because we're laying down pathways in the brain, messages between the brain and the hands. And if each time we do something different, we're really confusing our brain and we're confusing our fingers. And as a teacher, I see this a lot. I see people, the fingers just hesitating, just momentarily, but it's enough to disturb the music. So we mustn't do that. Because it's not because it's just a rule, it's because it will hold you back. It will slow down your practice. It will leave you with an unpolished performance because you will be never quite certain where those fingers are going. There are other reasons as well. We need certain fingers on certain notes because they're stronger. We need certain fingers in certain positions so that we can align our hand or to get to where we're going next. So these are really important things. One of the pieces in the grade 5 syllabus, for example, we've got a waltz in B minor by Schubert. Okay. Lovely waltz, really lovely piece. Now, when I have these repeated chords in the left hand, use 2 there and then 3 there, or sometimes use a 2 and sometimes use a 3. That's not going to be very helpful. My hand is not going to remember which one it needs to do, which is the most appropriate. Now, if I use a 3, which I see a lot of people doing, well, not only am I not quite relaxed, but look, I've got a smaller interval here and I've got a bigger interval here. So I want more fingers here, and I don't need that. My stretch isn't as big here, so I don't need to have my finger 3 there. I can use 2. 1, 2, 5 is very effective because now look what's happening there. My hand is twisted in a not very helpful way. Whereas if I move here, everything feels quite comfortable and natural. So there I went 3, because you see here, I have my 3rd here, and there's a smaller gap. Here, I have a 3rd between my A sharp and my F sharp. So it makes sense. It wouldn't make sense to use a 2 there, because look how distorted my hand looks if I use a 2 there. So hopefully you can see 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5 makes sense. 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 5 doesn't make any sense at all. The hand is distorted. So we want to work this out. Now, these patterns keep recurring through this piece. So we want to be consistent, because otherwise the brain is going to get very confused, and so is the hand. So these are the things that's worth taking time to sort out before you play. And of course, if you do work away from the piano, which I highly recommend, you will notice these patterns and you will think about that. Why wouldn't I use 1, 2, 4? Well, you just don't need to. And now my hand is at a very awkward angle, to be honest. Whereas if I use 1, 2, 5, it just feels very natural and easy. Then I can voice the chord how I want. So in this case, I want to hear all 3 notes. I don't want to hear that. I don't want want to hear that. I want to hear this, because this waltz is in B minor, and I have, now it's pianissimo, so really I should take notice of that. Now I couldn't hear enough F sharp there. There you go. Now if you wanted to use the una corda, you can. What the una corda does is for a discussion for another day, but people refer to it as the soft pedal, but it actually is not just about, we don't really use it just to make music quieter. It creates a different type of tonality. It's a bit more muted. Well, it is muted because una corda means one string. So usually when we're using the tricorder, sustain pedal, we have all three strings involved. The hammer is striking all three strings where we have three strings. Where we use the una corda, on a grand piano, the action is different, by the way. Everything moves over and I press it. I don't know if you can see that, but my keyboard shifts over so that we only use, the hammer will only engage with one string, and that gives us less resonance, so a more muted sound. Use it with caution, use it with care. It's more about, don't use it instead of developing a piano touch or a piano dynamic. Don't use it instead of learning how to control your sound. Use it to enhance it. The pedal is always to enhance for a different tonal colour. And to enhance what we're doing is to create an effect rather than instead of using a legato technique. So I've digressed a little bit, but fingers are so important. It's very, very important to decide upon our finger patterns and be consistent. And that way you will learn your pieces more quicker, you'll play more effectively. Your brain and hand won't be confused. And for example, in this piece, the left hand is the accompaniment throughout. What we really need to do is be able to play that without thinking, and then focus on the beautiful right hand melody. Very simple melody, but very pretty melody. And if we are consistent with the fingerings, we will be able to just ultimately, once we've learned, recognize the chords, worked out the fingerings, we will be able to just forget about the left hand. It will find itself. The other thing we have to think about in this piece is meter, but again, that's going on to another topic. So yeah, make sure that you are consistent with your finger patterns. You will be surprised what a massive difference that makes.